We call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for the invocation from Father Mark Carnero of Our Lady of Hope Parish. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we do praise and bless your holy name as we gather in this summertime of our lives when most people are relaxing, but we still have our work to do. We come together to think about those issues, those things that need to help us to live in a just and peaceful way in our township. We ask your blessings upon these council members. May they act justly so that all of us may live in your peace. We ask you to continue to bless our those who keep us safe, our police, EMTs, all those firefighters, and all those who put their lives in danger in order to keep us safe. We ask your blessings upon us, keep us safe, most especially our children during this summertime, and we ask all of our blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Father Mark. This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the scheduled meetings of the Township Council established and adopted by the Township Council with scheduled designated time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provision of the Open Public Meetings Act. Where I use an electronic amplifying recording device in order to obtain audible and clear record, we request all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name and address directly into the microphone. Recording device be solely utilized by the Township Clerk's Office shall be the official record of Township Council meetings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rochester?
Present.
Mr. Schmidt? Mr. Fowler? Mrs. Strada? Mrs. Winters? Here. Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Bianchini?
Present.
Mr. Parliament?
Present.
Mr. Cantwell?
Present.
Mr. Lechner?
Here.
Chief Earl?
Here.
Mr. Cardis?
Said Everett is sitting in for Mr. Cardis. We'll have the first public portion. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda items only, please raise your hand, come to the microphone. Jim?
Evening, Council. Jim Kibbles, Ariel. On the resolution 15:7227, 227, the artificial turf. Sorry I missed last week's workshop where you probably discussed this. I haven't heard very much in a positive way on artificial turf, and I'm wondering why this is being brought up. Like professionals are removing it from their stadiums, bringing back grass. Has there been any testing, or where did this come from?
Well, it mainly coming from, Jim, is the amount of wear and tear our fields take, especially for two major sports, which is football and soccer. The amount, and now we have lacrosse and field hockey, which takes a lot of beating on these fields. Football especially, we just can't keep those fields in tip-top shape. So we did some research. We looked at the other towns. Our engineer, Pettit Engineering, looked, and we believe that this is the best way to go in order to have fields that are safe, able to be played on, can handle any wet weather, and finally, it can save some possible costs, and they're looking into that and giving us those dollars. This is just for the design of it. This isn't
Just for the
final
design?
Yeah.
During the research, did anyone check for injuries to the
Yes.
children? What kind of shoes they would have to wear? Was there any changes in that?
Yeah, now we did talk about that. The shoes basically are rubber cleats. There are certain turf shoes you can wear. But again, that's the individual preference of the individual athlete. And it's not like the old turf like that was at the vet
But
where you had seams
cement.
and all. This is not like that. This is softer. This is there's like a pellet. I'm not the expert on it, but there's the pellet system that the rubberized pellets that they use. It's a whole lot nicer than the old-fashioned AstroTurf.
Okay. The cost of this, would that come out of township money or open space?
Open space.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Linda Musser, 50 Cameron Circle. I also have a question on the artificial turf. How many fields are going to be fitted or, how many fields will get the artificial turf?
We're looking at two, Linda, in Community Park. One for football, one for soccer, right next to each other to get the maximum use out of those fields. They'll also be marked not only for soccer and football, but for all the other sports that can play on those fields. Field hockey, so they'll be multi-use. And then, depending on what the cost is, if there's a savings by adding an additional field or two, we'll look at that, but at this point, we're looking at two.
And what are they looking as far as how much it's going to cost per field?
Well, when we looked at this about 5 years ago, they were like almost $1 million a field. They're now down to approximately $600,000. Don't quote me on that, but that's the number that we're looking at per field.
600,000
And the
per.
fields we're doing it with, we don't need lights and stuff like that, so that will be a savings as well. Most of the fields, you put them on, then you have to put lights so you get the maximum use out of it.
Okay, and do we have enough money allocated in open space to be able to do this, or?
Well, we're going to fund it through a bond, and then we're paying that via the open space.
Will you have to apply for a grant through open space for this?
No,
So you're just using the township open space money that they collect
correct,
through taxes?
correct.
So in addition to, how much do we have left in, how much do we have in the open space fund right now, and how much are you going to be bonding?
Well, we're bonding whatever we need for that field, but I don't know how much we have in open space. Do you know, Chrissy?
Every year our tax is about $850,000, and I believe we had $200,000 remaining from last year. So there's not quite $1 million, but because we're halfway through the year, but I would say at least $400,000, maybe $600,000. Don't quote me on that, but I'm just ballparking off the top of my head.
Okay, so there should, if there's 600,000, that should hopefully cover one of the fields, and they should only have to bond for an additional 600?
Well, the goal is to bond the field and then pay it back accordingly. Tom's going to work on the amortization or the payback of that field via open space.
Well, if the money's in the open space, why would you be bonding it?
Well, we utilize open space for many other reasons, for other fields and other supporting of other open space. So we're going to look at it. Tom will come up with a plan, and we'll decide at that time.
But it just seems like there's so many other things in the township that really need to be addressed, like the roads. You feel like a drunk driving down Chews Landing Road with the potholes, just trying to swerve back and forth, trying to avoid them. And I would think that, as a matter of public safety and concern, I think that, things like that should really be addressed. And it's.
We do have a pretty good road program that we address all of our streets. We'll continue with that. Some of those roads you mentioned, I think Chews Landing is a county roadway. So we work with the county to get them to address those roadways.
Well, we've got to get them to address it quicker because, it still is not in very good shape. Then the other issue the other agenda item that I would like to address is the adopting of the redevelopment plan. It states that it is encompassing 187 acres And I was wondering where exactly this land, is there buildings on there now? Because it sounds like it's part of Blackwood West, goes down the Black Horse Pike, Davistown Road through Lakeland. And it also seems to, it says that the township has reviewed the redevelopment plan, so what was in it. And it says it's going to facilitate economic growth. So what's the growth that it's going to facilitate?
So this is an overlay of that area, and I'll ask Mr. Lechner to address the specifics, okay?
Well, generally, this is just an introduction of the ordinance tonight. We're not having a public hearing on it, but to answer some of your questions, it's a corridor area along the Black Horse Pike from the border of Washington Township to the south and north to the boundary of the Blackwood West redevelopment area.
Okay, up by Church Street?
A little bit south, right where Meadows Diner is.
Okay.
And then east to the next road, I can't think of the name of it all, and then on the west towards the bike path for that whole swath of area.
Okay.
The redevelopment as an overlay zone. So you have the existing zoning, which is protected. There's some residential homes in there. There's a neighborhood commercial. There's some institutional uses. But the idea is with the Gloucester Premium Outlets looking to provide opportunities for economic development for new business ventures that may, right? Because right now the zoning may not appeal to potential development. So we're looking to have this as an overlay. So existing residences, they can do whatever they have on their property, but if a developer would want to maybe purchase a couple of the older homes along there to develop something, we would provide that opportunity.
Right, and that's the thing that was also very disconcerting, because it seems that it is giving a lot of latitude to the township to be able to come in and exercise eminent domain at will, and that is very troubling.
That's not
That's
correct.
wrong.
Go ahead.
This is not, it's a rehabilitation area, so eminent domain does not exist, or the payment of taxes and pilot. The whole town has been designated as.
So the pilot would not exist on this,
No,
on this zone here?
no, it's a rehabilitation, it's a redevelopment plan for a rehabilitation area, not a redevelopment area. It's not a redevelopment area. It's a
Okay, because it says redevelopment plan, so that's,
Oh, it is a redevelopment plan, but for a rehabilitation area,
okay.
as opposed to a redevelopment area.
Okay, so the overlay is for, is the overlay for businesses or other things as well? Because in section 2, it says that it's an overlay district titled the VGRD Villages of Gloucester Township Rehabilitation District. So will they be, is this just going to be strictly for businesses,
Could
for
be
economic growth?
Could also be residential. Residential is also permitted.
Okay, and do they have different zones in there, like senior zones
It's
or?
not a zone, it's a redevelopment plan. So basically, it would be similar to the College Drive redevelopment plan and the interchange where a redeveloper would come in and present his plan to council. And then they would review it in order to get a redevelopment agreement.
Okay, because
And
it,
then at that time, we would set densities, lot sizes. It's not a redevelop. It's not a zone. It's not a zoning district. It's a
Okay.
redevelopment. It's a different type of.
okay, so
concept.
tonight is, it says Township Council does hereby desire to move forward with the first reading of this ordinance. So have they seen the plan?
Yes.
What do they know about the plan? So
Plan
when
was
will the
presented
public
at the
hearing
work-
be?
Well, plan was presented to council at work session. Planning board will hear it tomorrow night. And then I think it's the next meeting of council would be
2 weeks from now.
27th would be for public hearing.
27th will be the public hearing. And from what council saw of the overlay, what are they proposing? I mean, there has to be something that's being proposed. It looks like this, has been around
Nobody
since
proposed anything
1989.
At this point, it's to open up the ability for businesses to come to that area. Ken, when he presented it to us, stated if we weren't prepared for any business that may be an offshoot of the outlets, we would not be prepared, and we may lose an opportunity to develop the rest of that area. So again, it felt like it was the right thing to do at that point to move it forward. And when they come and we have a developer, they will then present their ideas at that point. This now goes to planning board. They will have to bless it or send it back, I guess, if they have issues. But other than that, they have to, whoever it is, will have to come in front of council to get our blessings.
Okay. And has the master plan been updated? What's the date of the last master plan of the township?
On the master plan reexamination, the report was adopted June 9th of this year,
But the original master plan was from
1999.
1999. Okay. It hasn't been revisited since then, other than
June 9th, it was, no.
it was revisited in June.
This year,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was revisited in 2005.
Okay. And when they revisited in June, did they just revisit it to do this overlay, or were there other things?
No, the whole master plan was reexamined. I did that in-house.
Okay. Because it says that the township is designated as a redevelopment entity under the village's Gloucester Township redevelopment plan and may proceed with clearance, replanning, development, and redevelopment of the rehabilitation area to effectuate purposes of local redevelopment and housing law.
That's language that's in the statutes. Just informative for the public to understand the entity's ability. It's statutory language.
Okay. My biggest concern is the fact that people would be affected and it just seems like it gives a lot of broad latitude in here to be able to say, well, we want to take this whole area and your house is too old, we're going to,
That's not the case. That's totally opposite of the plan. It's an overlay plan. So if you have a home and you don't want to sell it to a developer, you don't have to.
Okay.
We discussed that exclusively at the workshop because we did not want it to come out looking like it was an eminent domain, and we were totally against that. And Ken explained it just like he did today. Is exactly how he explained it. So if anybody who wants to sell their property, they can. If they don't have to.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Pete?
That's good evening, Pete Heineball, Morningstar Court.
Evening.
First, I didn't see, as of late this afternoon, about 5 o'clock, I didn't see a bill list that was downloaded to the website. Just wanted to bring that up, so no examination of that.
Any reason, Chrissy?
We had a change in personnel, and so there might be just a glitch with getting it up. I'll double check on it, and the girl who always did it had left for another job, so I'll double check and make sure that it gets done.
Okay.
Can you put it up for tomorrow?
Yes, okay, I'll make sure it's
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Who left us?
I don't know. Rick? Emily. Yeah. She did a lot of the IT stuff.
So I have another question about the artificial turf. So I guess after the purchase and installation of it, I guess the ongoing maintenance of the turf will come out of open space taxes as well.
Correct.
And you also said you sort of did a sort of a preliminary sort of cost benefit, a savings analysis was done to this. Is there going to be a full-blown, detailed cost benefit?
The engineer was conducting that. He has some of the statistics, and he will present that to us.
So there's a chance still, if the numbers don't crunch out the way they need to, that this won't go forward? Is that
Well,
Can still
anytime,
happen?
Pete, if the numbers don't
Yeah.
look good and it's something that becomes more expensive than what we anticipate, then no, we would not go for it.
So your rough estimate of cost, without knowing any specifics, was 600,000 per field?
Yeah, and
Real
again,
rough, I understand. I understand.
And that's what, last time I was involved with it about 6-8 months ago, that's what they were looking
Right.
at the cost.
And we're looking at the possibility of starting out with two, putting turf on two fields.
Correct.
So would we bond that whole, just using your numbers for now, we bond that whole 1.2 million? We wouldn't pay a portion, when we have open space funds, we wouldn't,
Well, when we get to that point, I think we'll have that discussion with our business administrator.
Right.
And, because one of the things is we want to make sure that we can pay it off and pay it off appropriately and at the proper time.
okay,
And definitely, we want to utilize the open space for that.
okay, thank you.
Joanne?
Joanne Carr, Timber Birch. I have a question about the bonding for the artificial turf. And you're saying that after it's bonded, we're going to pay for it with open space monies. Are we going to pay that bond off completely, or how many? Okay, I'm here. It's not, but I'm here. Hello? How many years is it going to take us to pay that particular bond off if we have the open space money?
Well, I asked Tom, and the life of he believes the life of that bond would be about 10 years, which is what the life of those fields are. So he's going to take it once he sees what the cost is, and then he'll present to us the way of paying it. I can only tell you what I asked him was the life of those fields. They said to us, the engineer, 10 to 15 years, but Tom's looking at a 10 year is what he's looking at.
So we're looking at open space funding coming in for 10 years going towards that? Or you're gonna,
It could, if we decided to do it that way, that would be how we could pay for it, yeah.
I still
We
don't
haven't
know.
made that decision yet.
Right.
So we're going to look at everything and do what's best.
You know me, if you have the money, you pay for it, and you
Oh,
move on to something
I
else.
understand.
So, okay, there was another one. The redevelopment. I remember years ago, we had the redevelopment for the Monfils Farm. And I just I had never been aware of the process. Has the process for this changed at all? If anybody is
Yeah, I
included
don't
in
think
it,
it's
does
changed,
not?
has it?
It hasn't changed, it's different for this particular redevelopment plan. It is different. All the other redevelopment plans were designated redevelopment areas, which is a different process. It's a little bit different process, requiring a public hearing and things of that nature to the planning board. But in 1989, I believe that was the year, the whole township was designated as an area in blight and a rehabilitation area in order to adopt the tax abatement program that we have. And under that statute at that time, subsequent to that, we had the local redevelopment and housing law was enacted. And any area designated as a rehabilitation area could also use the local redevelopment housing law requirements for a redevelopment plan. But the exceptions, as noted by Mr. Mercado, is that it does not allow the pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes, and it does not allow the township to condemn any properties on the eminent domain. It's basically a stimulus package for the local developers wanting to assemble lots. Zoning, as a professional planner, I can honestly say I'm not a big fan of conventional zoning. I think in today's age, we have to allow more creativity. We can plan all we want and zone all we want, but if the marketplace isn't going to develop that, the properties remain stagnant. So this redevelopment plan, as the others that were developed, is to provide us opportunities for creative thought with the control of council and the planning board. You're going to have to show us your plan, show us what you want to do. They might have a good idea. Maybe it's something that we haven't thought of. We deal with this every day in the zoning office where somebody wants to start a business. We don't have anything in our ordinance that addresses it. We hate to make people go to the zoning board adjustment for use variance. So this eliminates that process. But it still puts the onus on the developer to show us what you got. Show us why your plan makes sense, why it will work, why you have enough parking, things of that nature.
Okay, thank you, Ken. I just brought it up only because 10 years ago, I just found the whole process flawed, the way that one went about with Maffa's. Those people that were looped in there had to prove that they weren't in need of rehabilitation or help, and they couldn't speak for themselves. They could only answer yes or no to that question, and it was just a very flawed process to my mind, and I just wanted to see if things had changed at all. But I
just that a little bit, even though it has nothing to do with the villages of Gloucester Township, the redevelopment law was changed subsequent, and it wasn't because of Moffat's Farm, but it was because of another development. And now municipalities in which we did with the College Drive, we have to specifically indicate the properties that we will seek for condemnation, a condemnation area and non-condemnation areas that were recently enacted, maybe in 2014. The towns now have to specifically identify those properties that may be condemned. It may not be, but so the residents know ahead of time that your property is
Right.
earmarked for condemnation.
the residents have a fairer chance at standing up for themselves.
They're noticed earlier in the process.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hi, Patrick O'Donnell, Erio. I just want to tell you, as a lacrosse player, falling down on turf hurts a lot worse than falling down on regular grass. You get scratches all up your legs, which you would think that doesn't happen because it's rubber. And I just want to know, have you contacted any of the coaches for football or lacrosse or anybody that falls down frequently?
We did. We met with the coaches from football and soccer, and they were all in support of having these types of fields.
How about for lacrosse?
We did not. We did not talk to the lacrosse coach.
All right, thank
We
you.
could do that, but thank you. Right?
Good evening, Council. Ray Paldor, Ariel. A couple questions on the turf. Number one, why now?
Why now?
Why now?
We've been talking about it for a while. When we re-looked at it, Ray, the cost seemed to be a better option. So that's why we're doing it now.
In my line of business, I'm at some of the towns that have these turf fields, and they're pretty elaborate looking, pretty nice. I hear pros and I hear cons. I hear more cons. I hear more of the injuries, and obviously, I've coached sports for quite a few years. I'm hearing more of the injuries and more of the burns, rug burns, if you will, that become infected. One of the other issues that I think I have with this is that whenever we seem to want something, open space, green acres, whatever, the township pulls out its credit card or applies for a new one, which seems to be more the case, that we apply for a new one. We bond 10, 15 years, and it just seems to be building debt. And having a good credit rating does not mean that you are debt-free. it means you've got good debt, but it's piling up. And I just think that whipping out a credit card now, with expenses the way that they are, taxes where they are, might not be the most advantageous thing. One of the other things that I can recall, and you know that I coached hockey as well, I remember the introduction of the improvement of the hockey facility down at Lakeland. Now, if memory serves me right, Lakeland began with some money that had been preserved for that particular area, mainly the baseball complex, the Marge Martin complex at the other end, which had originally owned all the area there, and if I remember, it was the seniors, the elders at the Blackwood Babe Ruth organization that assisted in giving a piece of land to that complex, and I have seen just a boatload of money go on down to that complex. The thing that comes to mind was, if I remember correctly, it was about $800,000 that was introduced here before council to make some improvements down there. Do you recall what that total bill wound up being from the 800 it started at?
For what, Ray?
Putting in a new rink and a new concession
I
stand.
think the final number, Ray, if anybody correct me if I'm wrong, was about 1.9 million.
More than twice the amount introduced.
Yeah, and that was to put in the total amount of rinks. It may have started out with less. I think we thought about tearing down the one rink, but we didn't. We kept it and just refurbished it and did the rest of it.
I don't have to tell you that I'm all about sports and youth sports and doing what's right for the kids, making it as safe as we can for the kids. Inevitably, it's the parents that pay. I don't know that it is a common sense idea to spend any kind of money, because let's just take the past to indicate what may be the future. What is going to be introduced and what's truly going to be spent is, I just don't see it coming in at anywhere near the numbers that you're hoping that they are. It just isn't feasible. I don't know that
That's why we'll Ray, when they go out, they'll do the pricing, and again, they'll come before council at a workshop, and we will discuss all that. This is just designed to get all the information.
And the thing with open space, money going to that, I mean, we seem to spend money, and I come from Philadelphia and spent, since here, from 1992, this open space thing just sometimes seems laughable. It really does. You're going to pay money to do nothing with something. Open space, it's justified. But when you do something with open space and you have the money for it, you're borrowing. Once again, here comes a brand new credit card in the mail, swipe it, and we're going to spend money again. We're not going to spend money, we're actually going to put it off. And then we're going to pay for it with other money. Eventually, it builds and builds and builds. There's a stack of statements sitting in the office, and we're going to pay those bills. Maybe it's not the right time now to go ahead and spend that kind of money. Every year we find something new to spend it on. If it's about safety, you got to do it. It's about protecting the people of Gloucester Township, you got to do it. But spending just for the sake of spending, if you don't have it, maybe it's not the time. Like we do at our homes. If you don't have the money for it, you don't do it. You just don't do it. And if I may, on the comment on the redevelopment, that I understand Mr. Lechner, that he was reciting 1989, the whole township was deemed redevelopment. What?
What was that, 99?
I think it was 1989 rehabilitation area.
Okay. Is that what you're quoting as more bringing this to date as to what's going on with what you're doing? Were you citing that from 1989?
No, I'm citing the ordinance that allows the town to do a redevelopment plan in this particular area.
Do you think that things have changed enough since 1989 that could be revisited? We redevelop everything. Whenever the township wants to do something, we throw our anchor there and we call it redevelopment. But we constantly do that as a result of what we're looking from 1989.
Well, the Gloucester Township is a municipality that at a point where there's been significant development, that redevelopment is going to be the course in the future. I mean, there's not too many properties left vacant except for Lakeland, which is already a redevelopment area. And all the other large parcels, except for maybe out on Kelly Drive or Ariel Road, that are wetlands. So a lot of it's already zoned, so redevelopment, other than rezoning it, redevelopment will be the course of action, I believe, for the town in the future.
It almost, I apologize, it's almost a comedian coming back to the same beginning of the joke. We redevelop. We go back to doing nothing, then it's deemed open space, and we gotta pay for open space to do nothing. It just keeps running in circles. And if you keep on going back to that, what you got from 1989, a lot's going on. People that left here in 1990 come back to Gloucester Township. It looks a lot different. A lot of redevelopment has happened. Maybe it's time to leave some of it alone, just let it be. Because I don't see where we're getting much tax revenue from, you know.
I think what he's saying,
Well, it's private property, so, I mean, personal
But still.
property, everybody has a right to develop their property. We've given them an opportunity to do that.
No, in any event, you know, one of the other things that Linda Musser said about, you know, could we look at the potholes? We may have a good crew that's working on the potholes. We don't know what the county does, because you look at those holes that are on some of these roads, that truly is open space. Thanks.
yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Council. Jen O'Donnell, Ariel. How many fields are in that Gloucester Township Park, do you know?
Off the top of my head, I do not. I know there's definitely 4 soccer fields, and I know there is 1 football field. And there's a practice field off to the side, but to tell you the total number, I have to...
And a lacrosse field. At maybe $600,000 each? Is that what you were saying?
That was what we've been told is possibly the cost of putting an artificial surface on one of those fields.
And what is the cost of just maintaining the fields that are there every year? Grass seed cutting, those kinds of things?
I don't have that number for you. However, I can tell you those fields are a wreck after one season, and that's the problem, especially football. It just takes a toll on it.
So a couple months ago, my husband and I watched something on, I want to say it was 2020, one of those goofy shows. And it was about the AstroTurf and the little sediment, pebbly things that are in there, and the high rate of cancer in soccer goalies in colleges. So I'd like you to take a look at that maybe before you decide to do that. Awesome, thanks.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Wendy Williams, Blackwood. I just kind of want to piggyback on what everybody else said about this AstroTurf. I'm coming into this blind, I'm not really sure what's going on. But to say we have approximately 10 fields and you want to do 2, I guess kind of as a pilot to see what happens, like how long are you going to assess whether or not these 2 are working out better than natural grass?
Well, we're not doing it as a pilot.
Well, for lack of a better word.
Right, so we went to other townships like Cherry Hill, Voorhees, other townships that have been using artificial surfaces for a pretty good amount of time, almost 10 years in some of these areas, and got some information from them, what went well, what didn't go so well, and hence we then made a decision, is this something that we want to do? So we talked about it, like I said, about 10 years ago. It was pretty expensive compared to what the regular field is. The costs have come down. The fact that we have fields with lights that don't need all that, the amount of irrigation that it takes to keep these fields going. So we looked at all that. And so we asked our recreation engineer to take a look at it, design it, let's see what the dollars would be, and we'll go from there.
So going from there, meaning if it seems to be working out, you would want to progress and do the other fields?
Not necessarily. I think in that park 2 is probably the maximum we want to put in there. I don't think we want to change all the other fields now.
Well, then why do you want to change just the 2? I'm confused.
Because first of all, they're side by side, and so you'll get maximum space, maximum coverage. Second, the football field is something that gets torn up really, really bad. And soccer isn't as bad on them, but it is tough. We're having more other sports like field hockey and lacrosse that could possibly use those fields as well. So we're getting more use out of those fields than just football and soccer.
Okay, but if you have a sports team that is playing, say football's on it one week and then you have lacrosse on it the next week, there's no consistency within that sport of playing on the same underground, that same footing.
No, it's the same.
So grass and AstroTurf are the same.
Oh, no, grass is different, but you can have multiple teams, multiple sports play on AstroTurf field.
Right, but if one field is being taken, and like I said, I'm new to this, so just bear with me. If you have them, you know, if it's allotted for football this week, and then the next week the AstroTurf is allotted for soccer or whatever, and then the other weeks they're playing on regular grass,
And they could play on multiple surfaces.
is that going to hinder our children as far as, you know, their performances and,
Well, I can tell you now, you have a lot of high schools that have AstroTurf fields. Some, even baseball, have the AstroTurf infield with the grass outfield. Not even dirt, they're sliding on these AstroTurf fields. That is what they do. Eastern High School's one. I know Washington Township, Haddon Township, they all have them. So they're playing on multiple surfaces as we speak. Some don't always play on the varsity or the main field. They'll play on a grass field or a dirt field, in some cases baseball, softball.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Right?
Again, Repaldor Ariel, just a real quick question. Does Gloucester Township have, or have they addressed a Buy American clause at any time in the past and maintain that? All right. Okay, but for the most part, I mean, you would recognize that as bids had gone out previous that we tried to focus on Buy American, right?
I think it's fine to sway on our bids. I would want to look through it to give you a more definitive answer, but I believe in our bid process, we have Buy American.
I'll look for that answer at the next meeting. Do you know where the majority of the artificial turf and AstroTurf is made? Not in this country.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Linda?
Just a quick question on one of the liquor licenses.
Sure.
The Blenheim Athletic Association, is that, what organization is that? Is that baseball, football, what is?
Stallions.
Pardon me?
Stallions, GT Stallions, but it's football, all Clemens Avenue,
That's the Blenheim?
Blenheim.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so it's their clubhouse?
Yes.
Okay. Have they always had a liquor license there?
Yes.
Okay.
Many years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no other hands, we close the first public portion. Bid report?
Remove surveillance camera trailer.
Motion to accept the bid report?
Second.
On the question? Roll call?
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Banky?
Yes. Minutes?
Waive the reading and accept the minutes of regular minutes, June 22nd.
Motion to approve minutes.
So moved. Second.
On the question? Roll call, please?
Hutchison?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Banky?
Yes. Next is readings of ordinance, first reading of ordinance. Ordinance O-15-12. Ordinance of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, adopting the Villages of Gloucester Township redevelopment plan in accordance with NJSA 48, local redevelopment housing law. As discussed earlier, this is a redevelopment plan that is being adjusted for rehabilitation. Am I correct, Hank?
Yeah, that's correct.
Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Hutchison?
First, Mr. Lecter, I'd like to thank you for being proactive on this. I think this is the type of thing that takes our town to the new level. I was speaking to a solicitor from a neighboring town, and he was asking me, why is it that Gloucester Township always is at the forefront in terms of getting the outlets or getting the shops in Cross Keys? It just seems like everything is happening in this town, and I would suggest that what we're doing here is what allows that to occur. So, yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Bianchi?
Yes. We now have resolutions, and this is a consent agenda for liquor license renewal.
Yeah, just for council's information, the resolution R15:07-216 still needs some more reports in before you can move on that resolution. We anticipated them in today, but they didn't come in, so I would like to do a motion to hold 216. And once you move holding, you can move on the other.
So I need a motion to place resolution 216 on hold.
I'll make that motion.
On the question, have a roll call.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes, the whole 216.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes, the whole 216.
Mr. Bianchi?
Yes. Now I'm going to ask council if there's anyone that wants to remove any of these resolutions, please let me know now. If not, do I have a motion to approve this consent agenda for liquor license?
Make that motion, Mr. President.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Bianchi?
Yes. We now have the regular consent agenda. Any council person wishing to remove any of these resolutions, please let me know now.
I'll make that motion to approve as is.
I'll second that.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Bianchi?
Yes.
Resolution 230, resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Gloucester, Kingman County, New Jersey, authorizing the execution of an intermunicipal service agreement by and between the Gloucester Township Municipal Utilities Authority and the Township of Gloucester for the use of an emergency services contractor.
This resolution will allow the township to utilize the Gloucester Township MUA's emergency services contract with R.D. Zolli. Motion to approve.
So,
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Bianchi?
Yes.
Resolution 231, resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, New Jersey, confirming the purchase of one 2015 NH tractor backhoe for the Middlesex Regional Educational Services Commission, state-approved national cooperative program.
As the title states, this will allow the township to purchase a tractor backhoe through the Middlesex Regional Educational Services Commission. Motion to adopt.
So moved. Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Mr. Bianchi?
Yes. I do have a GTE Gov access question. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a little ahead of myself here. Resolution 232.
Glenn, before you start, do you know if we have that on the board?
We do, in the yellow, yes. Resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Gloucester authorizing the transfer of COA funds to the Senior Affordable Housing Project known as Senior Campus 2, being developed by Conifer Realty LLC at Woodbury Turnersville Road, Township of Gloucester, Camden County, New Jersey.
As the resolution states, this will allow the township to transfer COA funds to the Senior Affordable Housing Project known as Senior Campus 2.
Just before council leaves, I'll give you an explanation as to why it's being put on as an add-on. Council members recall at the work agenda meeting last week, Mr. Charles Lewis from Conifer Realty LLC appeared at the meeting, expressed to council the speed on which they intend to move forward with the development of Senior Campus 2 at the Lakeland Complex. One of the things they are doing is a highly competitive process of receiving grant funding or federal national mortgage housing association funding. One of the things that they're looking at is the townships, communities that have in the past committed their COA funds. If you recall, part of our proposed round 3 used some of our COA funds for the senior campus housing project as affordable housing. So they made a request if we can assign our funds by resolution to this Conifer's project for senior campus 2. Council basically agreed. There's a time frame on this that has to be done before the end of this month to give Conifer a really competitive level with the other communities that are competing for those same dollars. So we reached out to Conifer that they were supposed to provide some language that they wanted in the resolution, so we held off putting this on until that came in. Unfortunately, it did not come in, so I drafted the resolution as I thought it should be, so that at least it's available for them. Now, if for some reason they are not successful, then the COA funds are not transferred. That says that in the resolution. Or if they are successful, then the town intends on using that money to make available senior affordable housing.
Thank you, Dave. Motion to approve.
Second.
On the question, roll call.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Mr. McOtter?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes. Now I go to GT. Need question. This is from a Carla Schroeder. It's 56 Lincoln Drive, Laurel Springs, New Jersey, 08021. I would like to commend Gloucester Township Police Department and the Gloucester Township Public Works Department for their prompt and efficient response to the recent storm. On the days immediately following the storm, I saw police officers directing traffic at many intersections where traffic lights were out, and I saw many trucks removing brush and debris from streets. Having a place to deposit spoiled food was enormously helpful. Gloucester Township's response to the storm was far, far superior to the response of some other towns, and I want to thank those who worked so hard to ensure the safety and comfort of residents. Chief, if you could pass that along to your staff, and if we could do that to Public Works, I'd appreciate that. Now I have the second public portion. I wish to speak on any subject. Please raise your hand and come to the microphone. Yes, Jim.
Jim Kibblesmith, Ariel. Just to follow up a couple of questions on open space. I was just curious, what is the percentage of the current income, like the yearly taxes that we receive, compared to how much of that money goes towards reducing the debt service for open space projects?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. Would you know that? Chrissy, and if not, could you get us that information?
Oh, we have a debt schedule that, that we follow every year that pays off the, whatever portion is supposed to come out of for open space projects. So there's a set debt schedule that we pay yearly, and what I don't know off the top of my head what that is, but I can provide that to you.
Right.
Currently, I believe there are 2 projects that we're paying out of the open space for debt service.
Right, because you had mentioned earlier that we bring in $800,000. And I know we have the hockey rink and one other, and we're now talking maybe another $1.2 million, just to make sure that we don't go over. Is there a percentage that the state or the creditors go and say, if your debt service is like 30% of your income, your credit rating goes down?
I believe it is 3% of your equalized valuation. So that's but that includes the schools also.
Okay, it's not separate, like just for
Not just for open space, that's for all your debt.
all of it. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else? Pete?
Pete Heinbaum, Morningstar Court. I have a sort of a bullet point list of a few questions here. First, the status of the outlet tax abatement application. Do we know where we are with that right now?
Council has received nothing. I don't know if there's anything else out there. So we have not received anything. We, the council,
Right.
don't know if the town has.
Okay. The 2014 audited financial statements, the audited financial statement, when the audit's completed, we usually download the document to the website. I haven't seen 2014's audited financial
Is
statement.
that ready?
It's still not, we're waiting for, health insurance information from our third-party vendor, to provide to our auditor. So, the health insurance is just slow getting it to the auditor, so that's the last thing that they're waiting on. And once they get that, we'll have our audit.
So the audit's not complete until the auditors get that information and then
Right, and
sign
the
off on the
township
audit.
has no control, it's our health insurance. Actually, it's our prescription provider.
Okay. Another financial document. For the first time, I saw a 2015, what is titled a user-friendly budget. It's a different document than the other budget documents that are given every year. And it shows a little bit different information, like employee headcounts and some good information. But the first time I've ever seen it was on our website. It was 2015. Is that a brand new document?
Yes,
It is. Just 2015 is the first one.
That is the first time the state required that document for the first time this year.
Okay. This school districts have been providing that for as long as I know, but I guess it's new for municipalities then. Okay. Thank you. This is a different topic now. The planning board has an interesting meeting tomorrow where they're going to hear about the new rehab center. I guess the center abandoned their application to rezone the area to put housing at the property there. Instead of going straight to planning board with their plans for this institutional facility. And it's a interesting project. I mean, to me, it sounds like it's going to be a little bit of a tough call for the planning board, but we'll see what they come up with. My question is more general with the planning board. What is the planning board's duty? Is it just to make sure the plans comply or meet code and comply with ordinances or things like that, or is it make sure it's for the good of the town also? Is that part of their charge?
Ken, you want to weigh in on that one before I address the police questions?
Well, how many hours do you have? The planning board is, their duties and policies is administered through the municipal land use law and the Jersey statute. For this particular application, I mean, they do a lot of different things. Premier would be the master plan for the municipalities, but projects that are deemed permitted uses go to the planning board. Things that are not permitted go to the zoning. Applications that are not permitted go to the zoning board. So for this particular use, the zoning board heard whether or not a residential substance abuse facility would be considered a permitted use. They went to the zoning board for an interpretation of the ordinance. And the zoning board found that St. Pius Retreat, which is in an institutional zone, and this particular use was substantially consistent with what a hospital is, that it would be a permitted use. So then now it goes to the planning board for that component of it. So that's what their application right now is to convert part of the St. Pius Retreat, a certain number of beds and staff with their residential substance abuse program. And it's a minor site plan approval right now. But I believe, at least as it has been expressed to me, that this is a phase one type of application, that they're going to come in subsequent to this application to add an addition onto that building, and maybe even come back with the residential component. The residential component, the apartments, was withdrawn. But I don't know if that's necessarily that means it won't be resubmitted. There's a potential for that to be resubmitted as well. Not that
Interesting. Well, yeah, it does. And that's interesting. That's the first time I heard that.
But basically, things that are permitted uses, and the applicant is willing to comply with all the requirements of our ordinance, our local planning vernacular, we call that a by right application. If an applicant is willing to do whatever our ordinance requires, the planning board must approve it. If we wrote an ordinance, we said this is what you want to do, 1 through 100. I'm doing 1 through 100. You have to give me an approval.
So is there any assessment done by planning board or any other board on the law enforcement impact or the school's impact? That's part of the planning board, no?
Not in New Jersey, there's no impact assessment. I mean, there's traffic impact. When it's a permitted use, the impacts really can't be, you can assess traffic impacts, things of that nature, if the use generates a new traffic signal.
If it was a residential development, there would be a school impact. I guess I should ask the question, is that?
Yeah, but we can't, so that's not permitted in the state of New Jersey.
We asked for one time, didn't we, with regard to the one up near Cross Keys?
Yeah, towns will ask for a lot of things, a new fire truck. We need a new fire truck, we need a new school, things of that nature. In other states, they actually are allowed, but not in New Jersey.
Okay, thank you. I asked a question similar to this at a prior meeting, specifically about school impacts and things like that, and I thought I received an answer at that, when I asked that question, that yes, a planning board would assess other impacts besides just,
I guess they could if they wanted to look at, I know years ago when someone would ask what would be the impact of school-aged children on a project, a lot of times they would come back and say, well, it's like we had that one on the Blackhurst Pike. It's like Valley Brook. Valley Brook has 100 students going into the schools, and they compare it like that. But I guess they could do it on their own. We just can't ask them for it.
Sounds correct. And I think it comes out sometimes during the testimony before planning boards when they're assessing it. A question will come up either from the public or a board member. Do they have any statistics? What's the impact? And, usually an applicant is prepared will address those things. But as Ken was saying, you can't deny it.
that's interesting. Yeah, I've heard those discussions in prior approvals and things like that. I thought it was a requirement and part of the assessment, part of the approval process, but I guess not. Okay. I have read quite a bit about this facility and about this application, and just from the sound of it, I mean, I'm on the inside, and I guess the planning board's not going to ask a lot of these questions that I've been contemplating from what I just heard. But it doesn't sound like this. Let me first start with the question. Is this property in a redevelopment zone?
No.
No. So they will not be able to apply for any kind of tax abatement or pilot or anything like that as part of.
I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Is it?
But the whole township is in a tax abatement area. The whole
So
township is in an area that allows tax abatement.
So they, saying that, this facility can potentially apply for a tax abatement.
Are they a nonprofit organization?
No, they're for-profit.
I believe they indicate that they're for
Yeah, they
profit.
are. So they can apply.
I just want to check. That's why I asked that question for a nonprofit.
If they are profit, they're profit, everyone knows about it. Okay. Well, let me ask a question related to that. It sounds like this facility is going to provide few jobs for the township. It's not an outlet mall or something like that. It does, based on the business model, it sounds like it's going to provide few benefits to Gloucester Township residents. They're going to draw from high-end customers from all around the region, not just South Jersey, but further than that. And while I do recognize the need for more rehabilitation beds, again, this doesn't sound like it's going to be one that benefits too many Gloucester Township residents. And in fact, there's a good chance law enforcement services and things like that there's going to be some additional costs associated to the township with this facility here. So I guess the planning board's not going to take into account any of those calculations or factors or anything like that.
I disagree, Pete. Those are questions that are asked of the applicant during the process. So the applicant has an opportunity to present their plan to the planning board, and then any of the members of the board have an opportunity to ask these questions. Mr. Lechner asked questions. They have to adhere to the planning board secretary, the director of planning's letter, and also the board engineer's letter. So there's plenty of opportunity for questions, and also there's a public portion that allows individuals to comment on the project as well.
But factors like I just mentioned, like law enforcement costs or job creation, you can't use those to deny an
No,
application.
it complies with planning
Right.
and
So those
our ordinance.
questions will just be, make them sweat it for a couple minutes, but it won't have any impact.
But if it's a permitted use,
Yeah.
what, I mean, Mr. Hunter indicated before, if it's permitted, it's by right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we can ask all the questions we want, and we're just gonna make them sweat, but we're not gonna change it. Well, we're not,
But
we're
if
gonna,
it's by right, then, they know they're coming in. It's a formality.
I think it's no different than any other healthcare facility. We have Lakeland that our police take care of at this point. So it's like any other healthcare facility. Virtua and Voorhees doesn't just take Voorhees residents, they take from all over. So, I hear you and I understand the question and the concern. Good questions, and I think they should be asked, even though we may not be able to do anything. But I think they're all good questions.
can stipulations be put into approval, just voluntarily accepted stipulations? Can we say, well, I think I've heard that, how about this one then? Because especially if this is what we hear tomorrow from their answers, if there's a good chance it's going to provide few jobs and few benefits to Gloucester Township and potentially higher costs like law enforcement and maybe even some school district costs depending on some residential situations, can we put a stipulation on that they cannot apply for a tax abatement as part of the, can we?
Isn't that sort of like eminent domain? You're taking something from the property owner that they're entitled to for no good reason at all. For no reason, why should they do that? You understand?
Let me just comment. I have to understand that the hearing before the planning board is quasi-judicial in a certain sense. For council to sit up here and say, yeah, you can do that, I think that would be inappropriate for this governing body to answer some of the questions that you're putting to them as an opinion. I think that you don't want to taint from the governing body a message out there to planning board members or public as to what they should be doing, in a sense giving a hint as to how the governing body feels about it. I think that would be inappropriate. I do believe when you're before a planning board, whether you're attorney for residents or the applicant, those type of questions are important, especially if the applicant might need a minor variance for something, and there are some issues. Sometimes you get concessions out of an applicant on those points, because an applicant can agree to do something voluntarily if they choose as part of their development, part of their project. But I think it might be somewhat inappropriate for council members to say, you should this, or yes, you can do that, you should try to deny. I think that's inappropriate for this governing body to interfere.
I understand. Yeah, I did start out with hypothetical questions, but then got a little more nitty-gritty detail, so you're right. I should stay away from the detail at this meeting. Okay, well, I think there's a lot of questions we'd want to hear answers to at tomorrow's planning board meeting, but what I didn't realize is that most of those answers to those questions don't necessarily going to have an impact on any approval or
They
anything.
might be good questions at that.
Like, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Linda?
Just a couple things, if I could, please. When you're answering questions, could you all speak into the microphone? It is so difficult to hear, especially when that motor goes on. It is, you can't hear anything, and I have very poor hearing to begin with. So, I guess the other thing I wanted to ask was, where you have the GT access, is there a way to also have a GT access for the first portion of the meeting where the, where you're just speaking to agenda items? Because if someone has a question regarding an agenda item, by the time it gets to the GT access portion of the meeting, it's already done. So is there a way to be able to add that
Well, we have the agenda set, however, we definitely have a discussion at the next workshop and discuss if we want to add that part to it.
Okay, because I know what I'll do is I'll go online, I'll pull up the agenda, and if I know that I'm going to be running late for an appointment and I want to ask a question, it might have something to do with an agenda item, so it would, just be a little bit beneficial if we could do something like that. And then the only other comment I wanted to make was regarding tomorrow night's meeting with the planning board. Is it the planning board that's meeting or zoning tomorrow? Okay, because they already came in front of zoning. So am I understanding correctly that when they came in front of the zoning board, I thought that they were coming in front of the board for an interpretation of the housing element, and I thought that the interpretation by the zoning board was that that wasn't an allowed type of use in the zone because of it being industrial. The hospital portion wasn't allowed use. But with planning or with zoning, the burden of proof is always on the applicant. And they have to be able to prove that it's an inherently beneficial use. And it's inherently beneficial to the township. So I think that a lot of the questions that Pete had, although they may not have been appropriate for this board because you're not the planning board, I think are questions that certainly should come up, certainly should be asked, and the applicant should certainly be able to prove to the residents, because this is going to have a very big impact on this community. It's going to have a very big impact on housing, which is already suffering tremendously in Gloucester Township. Our prices are rock bottom. I mean, it is a mess. We still have a lot of short sales. We have a lot of foreclosures. We're going to have a lot more if we bring something like this into our neighborhoods. And I think that people really deserve to be able to hammer them tomorrow and make sure that when they're, coming through with their testimony, that we have the right to ask these questions and they should be able to answer them sufficiently. They didn't put it in Haddonfield. They would never get this through in Haddonfield. I think we need to be just as tough. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Yes, Joanne.
I'm not touching it. Joanne Carr, Timberbridge. I wanted to mention about the Blackwood Lake. You already passed. Do you know when they will begin working on the Blackwood Lake Dam, and how long it should take, and how happy the residents are?
Sure. I don't have a firm schedule for you. The contract, most of the contract documents are signed. It's a 60-day contract. Hopefully they can complete it in 60 days. We do have our dam safety permit that's been hold up so far. We got that about a week and a half ago. The first step is to get the contract signed, obviously. The contract has to sign, it has to apply, get together its bonds, provide it comes back to the town, they use the contracts, and everything's in order, then the town signs it. DEP is requiring that we submit or send the submittals that the contractor sends to us to their office for review. For the routing system we're putting in. That's going to add another delay. I don't know how quick they're going to review it. Something that I was anticipating, and I don't see the need for, but it's part of the permit requirements.
Christmas.
I'm hoping that, I'm still hoping to get it done long before Christmas. Hopefully, construction will start in 30 days from today, wood, and then be complete 60 days after, so 3 months from now we'll be done.
Super, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad that's getting
my goal.
finalized.
Whether I meet that first state involved, it's for the year.
Oh, I have faith in you, John. The other thing, I have a question. Coming down Summerdale Road, there's a sign outside of the fiberglass property, and it says sale, and a phone number, and I don't know whether it's for a house that's in the development across the street? Okay, it's very confusing, it just doesn't say anything.
Doesn't really look that official, does it? So
No, but I just thought I'd ask. You never know.
I saw it too. I thought the same thing, but it's not.
I figured you would have an answer. Oh, and I wanted to thank Public Works and everybody, and the police and everybody for all their work. They really did a great job. I mean, there are still trees around, but there will always be trees around. So, but thanks again.
Thank you, Julie. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Terry Fretz, Blackwood, New Jersey. I just want some clarification on what was said in regard to that rehab center. I understand you're saying that it's a approved site, and you can't deny an approved site to do, I guess, whatever it is that they want to do. I'm a little confused. Why is it's an approved site in Gloucester Township for hospital, so to speak, use? Bancroft in Haddonfield was also an approved site for hospital. So why is it? Why were they allowed to not approve things, but in Gloucester Township you have to approve everything?
I don't
It
know.
has come from me, by the way, so I'm just parroting what Ken said.
Yeah, I don't know, it's an approved use, and so I don't know anything about the Haddonfield situation. But Dave, I guess if it's an approved use, they're allowed to bring it forth.
Well, if it's, what use they're going to put there, inherent beneficial use, however it's defined under the land use law and the ordinance. If it's a permitted use, then it does not require a use variance, then as long as it meets all the other standards of the ordinance, it's hard to deny an applicant if he's complying, as Mr. Electric said. If you have 100 points and he does everything you want to do, and it's a permitted use, it's hard to deny. Why it was not in Haddonfield, I don't know the particulars there. You have to know how their ordinance reads and what the zone was. A good example would be if it were a different type of zone that would not sustain or is not permitted use, it would require a use variance. It's a whole different kind of application.
But Haddonfield was a hospital, so to speak, because Bancroft took care of people that got insurance for hospital needs, and this was a diocese, like it seems to me that was more of a hospital use that he indicated than ours is, and I'm just wondering why that township has some say in things and my township doesn't have any.
You really would have to know how that ordinance reads in particular for that.
So, have you checked into
The planning board has legal counsel that sits on the planning board, so I'm sure if there's a legal reason that should not be here, that will be discussed in that meeting.
Okay, and I know that I was at the March meeting and that they were going to go ahead and try and build townhouses and whatever, and then at the last meeting you said that they've kind of abandoned that for now, but they may go back once they get started in doing what they're doing and try and put housing. Will they try to put housing in the building that they're asking for a variance for tomorrow, or would they be, or do you know, would they be looking to expand it even further?
And you know what their what the step is for tomorrow?
The application that's before the board tomorrow is only for a minor site plan of the existing community. As it was expressed to me by their engineer, they want to get into the building and do demolition work and some minor construction work. They can't do that because the existing building is a retreat center. The existing building is a retreat center. So even though the zoning board deemed that the residential substance abuse facility is a permitted use in an institutional zone, that's the zone of the land, it is a change of use which requires them to go to the planning board for site plan approval. Their application before the board is for a minor site plan. There's approximately 50 parking spaces there presently, and they need one space per 3 beds. So I believe the application is for tomorrow night is for 36 beds. And whether or not that's, I think that's phase 1 as it was expressed to me. Phase 1.
So you don't see it as a stepping stone for asking for more and more things? It's just tomorrow
No,
night? It's just
It's
isolate?
phase one, so when they tell me phase one, I was thinking it might be phase two.
Or three?
The only thing before the board, sorry, is the minor site.
It's the minor site
So
plan.
if they want to come back in and do something
They'll
else,
have to come back.
They have to come
before
before.
a whole new application for it.
Do they have to come before zoning and planning, or just planning?
Just planning board.
Just
The
planning?
zoning board heard the interpretation for the use, approved the residential substance abuse facility at, means it was similar to a hospital as a permitted use in an institutional zone where we do allow hospitals. But they denied the residential component. The applicant had tried, just so the board knows, the applicant tried to, in council, applicant wanted approval for the residential apartments as well at the zoning board as an accessory, a sober living community as an accessory use to the residential substance abuse. The zoning board denied that part, and that part they will have to come back to the
Will have to come
zoning
back.
board.
So that'll be advertising, people, the residents will know that they're coming
And
forward,
there's-
yes.
and as Mr. Carter says, the planning board and the zoning board are both quasi judicial bodies. They're more or less like a judge and jury all at once. So I'm not sure if we're saying too much or not.
Okay.
Come to the meeting tomorrow night.
Oh, I am.
That's what you should do.
I am, and I think a whole lot of other people are as well. Great, thank you.
Ken, when do we get involved in this process? When does somebody come and ask us for permission?
For this application?
Yes.
They wouldn't.
They would.
Oh, they could, but.
Jennifer?
Thanks. I want to revisit something I came here before about, and that is Jarvis Road, from New Brooklyn down towards past Union Valley to, I guess that's Kearsley out there. There is no shoulder to the road because people's grass is growing all the way out to the street. My kid is now 12 and wants out bad. And he has friends that live down in that area, and he really wants to take his bike down there. I mean, we allow him to do that now. He has to cut through some neighborhoods to get there. But I'm only asking for maybe just a shoulder of the road. He's begged the mayor, I don't know, 20 times for actual bike paths in the township, and that's not going to happen. So if we could just maybe get a little bit of shoulder to the road in that area so the kids can ride their bikes safely, I would appreciate that. He also told me that the crosswalk there, the pedestrian walk sign there, and down Jarvis on Williamstown Road both tell you not to walk constantly. So I think there might be an issue with that. I think they might be broken. You know, my kids will get stuck there for a half an hour going, what? And I also wanted to give the police kudos, but for a much different reason. I had an incident at my house at Easter time, and stuff happened. And I came to the chief one night after here and was just kind of having a conversation with him about that. Not only did he have a lot of really great questions and told me he would follow up, another officer, I guess the community relations guy maybe, followed up with me. I then, I don't know, 2 weeks later had yet another officer follow up with me and make sure, had a lot of questions and asked a lot of things and just made me feel much better about the situation. So I wanted to give kudos to the police for reaching out when it was really necessary. Awesome, thanks.
John, can you take a look at the Jarvis Road and give us...
It's a county road, any changes we just made this the shoulder's responsibility of the county, but I'll take a look at it, get it up to the county.
Could you do that and then...
Now also let the local roads maintain the traffic signal.
Yeah. And then if you could have something for our workshop, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Put that on for the workshop.
Tough road to walk that road.
Yeah, I know, it definitely is. Anyone else? Yes?
James Pildis, Glen Oaks. I just wanted to ask if you guys were aware that in January minimum wage went up to $8.38 because the township, as a citizen, as an employee too, for the Gloucester Township Rec Department, a bunch of us just opened up our paychecks and we found out we were still making $8.25. I don't know if we tried to contact them. They said that it was within their rights because it's still minimum wage, but everywhere I read, it still said $8.38 for New Jersey. I know my other job gave us raises in January when that went up. So I don't know if you guys know about that.
I'll check on that tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Also with that, I know with most of the summer camps, you don't normally get a raise unless you go up a position, so like from a CIT, counselor, head counselor, all that kind of stuff. Most of the head counselors and that kind of stuff, the last time we heard that they received a raise was, latest one I could hear was 2007, but the admission to register for a camp has gone up significantly each year. So a lot of the camps were just curious where that money was going into. So we don't know if that was something you guys could look into, but.
Definitely will.
All right.
We'll ask Chrissy to do that.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
I know that the registration for the summer camps, I believe that it's been pretty consistent for the parents to enroll their children for at least as long as I've been here, which has been 5 years. But I can have Diane, who's our rec leader, or director of recreation, check on that.
Well, I remember, Mr. President, that that we had a presentation with regard to the fees and the costs associated with running the program, and they were trying to keep it as low as they possibly could. But I think the costs were going up. So I know that they make presentations anytime that they want to increase the fees.
Well, we understood the increase in registration. It was just a matter of, we just wanted to understand where it was going, if it wasn't going into raises or even minimum wage for those that should be making minimum wage at that point.
Mr. Pildes, I don't think it's a profit center if you're worried about that.
Oh, no, nothing like that. We just wanted to make minimum wage, you know?
And I think we do have a report from the last time they came before us.
Well, I think we'll definitely ask Diane to look into it with Chrissy, and we'll have it at our next workshop, and I invite you back to discuss that with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Pete? Oh, I saw your hand going up.
Just a couple, Pete Highball, Morningstar Court, just a couple quick follow-up. When extra law enforcement resources are needed at a business, ShopRite I think is an example, we have, the police department charges the business for those additional services. Is that true?
Are they? That's correct. Yes.
Does the business ask for that, or
Or if they're asking for extra coverage, am I correct, Chief, then the chief can provide that and charge them for that? It'd be what?
I think this contract is out. Correct. I mean, we have an agreement with them, and often it's usually road work and road contract.
Yeah, just like on the roads, if they need police help, you have a contract with that construction company, and then they pay the bill.
Correct.
ShopRite did have a few examples of crime, a lot of incidences of crime in a short amount of time. So did they proactively ask for the extra services, or was there some kind of communication or discussion or back and forth negotiation, or was it all proactively implemented by ShopRite, by the business?
Chief, would you know that?
It's generally initiated by ShopRite, and usually around holiday times, it's pretty standing that they hire extra officers. Usually around some Thanksgiving, Christmas time. It's typically the most frequent.
Okay, thank you. What I'm getting at is it possible, or is it allowable, if the township sees high crime at a certain area, a certain business, or certain facility, to impose additional costs on that business?
Well, I know that there's been issues in other areas in the past, maybe even before Chief Earl, that they would approach those areas as a community policing and then work with them and giving them ideas and stuff. However, I don't think we solicit that, am I correct?
That's correct.
So if they reach out, I know we know where the crime is coming from. I know our police is very active, proactive, and then we work with those areas.
Okay. I was keeping those questions hypothetically as I could. I was thinking of the facility while I'm asking those questions, but that's off the record. Just one other question. Grenlock School, is that within this new rehabilitation zone we just designated tonight, or discussed tonight?
Go that far, Ken?
Yes.
Grenlock School is part of this new zone we're just designating now.
It's an overlay zone.
The overlay zone.
Rehabilitation.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Seeing no other hands, we'll close the second public portion. Polling of directors and council, please.
Mr. Lecter?
I have nothing to report.
Chief Earl?
Evening, Mr. President. Good evening, Council. Just a couple of quick items you may have seen over the weekend. 2 officers were injured during resisting arrest. Just give you a quick update on them. One broken hand, probably requires surgery to his hand. The other sprained ankle on crutches now. We hope that's the extent of that injury. So if anything changes, I would let you know. But just want to give you a little more detail than was initially out in the press release. On a lighter note, August 4th, National Night Out coming up. I'm sure it'll be a great year again. The storm response it was certainly great to see the email again, and I will tell you that I put out a letter during the storm, and in my whole career, I've never seen the community act that way in a positive sense. I mean, I don't think there's a day that goes by anymore that you see on the news nationally where maybe police are under some different scrutiny. But here we had officers being handed water and thank you and many emails that have come in over the past week. And it was really remarkable that I just wanted to send it again. So it was a really proud moment, a very tense time for a lot of people without power, but they still had the appreciation that was unprecedented. So wanted to share that with you. And our Emergency Operations Center, we didn't have that back. We had a very significant storm back in 2010. Over the past 5 years, outfitted our Emergency Operations Center, which was staffed for nearly 3 days, 24 hours a day. And that's how our response was drafted that day. Continuing to make improvements to that in our response. Hopefully we won't have another storm like that. But we've had a few. We've gone through Hurricane Sandy, that storm of 2010. Now the summer storm of 2015. So we'll make some plans and make some changes even for the next one. We graduated just about 2 weeks ago 2 police canines. Two canines just retiring due to age. They'll be joining the officer and their families. And we'll probably be bringing in the 2 canines in the next couple of months for a swearing-in ceremony to show them to you. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Programmer?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Cantwell?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Hutchison?
I want to compliment the police department and especially Public Works for the way they handled the storm. I've been approached by countless individuals who have complimented everybody. I'd also like to say that I enjoyed tonight's meeting. There's a lot of great questions asked, and it was probably one of the better meetings in a long time. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Sarah, do you have anything to report?
No.
Mrs. Winters?
I just want to commend the police department and Public Works. You know, they did an amazing job throughout these summer so far. It's doing different events. And I do ditto what Dan said. I think today's dialogue was awesome. I did take some notes for some things that I need to look up, just to be better informed. And have a great week.
Mr. Mercado?
I, too, want to thank Public Works, our police, our fire, EMS, MUA, which was also out throughout our neighborhood, and also thank our residents. The last few weeks I've been out with my colleagues in different neighborhoods, and they talked about the response that our different departments had, but our residents who were giving bottles of water to Public Works or Gatorade or police department. And there's a neighboring township that when you were going down their main corridor after the storm, you were dealing with doing a 4-way stop on 42. That did not have the response that our township had. So I'm very proud of our township and our residents. I was at Franklin Square last week, and I was asking some of the residents how they dealt with it, and they said, get yourself a landline, a lantern, and go to bed early. That's how you deal with storms. And they're survivors. They've gone through this. So that's their piece of advice they gave to us younger folks. But thank you for coming out this evening, and have a great evening.
Mr. Bianchini?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all the residents for attending tonight's meeting. I, too, want to thank Public Works and the police and all the emergency responders. And I agree with Mr. Mercado that the residents seem to all come together and making sure that fellow neighbors and helping out when there was things blown off of their decks or lawns or out of their areas. So it's good to see that the community can come together at those times. With that, I'd like to ask for
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Have a great night.
Yeah, they go home with you.
I just wanted to come up and say thanks.
So